Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying in for this talk. My name is Zulika Rogers. I'm the lecturer in Jewish Studies here at Trinity College Dublin in the Department of Near Middle Eastern Studies. I'm also the current head of department, so that's why I'm presenting to you today on our degree in Jewish and Islamic Civilisations. What I should say is that we are based in the arts humanities, so we're an arts humanities subject. We're in the School of Languages, Literatures and Cultural Studies. Now that's a mouthful, I realise, and it doesn't mean much to people outside Trinity, but it's very useful in order to conceive of what it is that we do, because Jewish and Islamic Civilisations is really about the languages, literatures and cultures of Jews and Muslims from the Bronze Age till today. What do I mean by that? Well, we study Jewish and Islamic history and culture as civilizations. We look at the historical development all the way up to the modern period. We look at the languages of Jews and Muslims. If you come and do the course from second year onwards, you have a choice of doing Hebrew or Arabic. Again, it's a choice, you're not forced to do that. We look at the literature of these communities. We look at the politics, the political responses to various situations, philosophy, Jewish and Islamic philosophy, especially from the medieval period, arts and music, religion, of course, there's a religion element, looking at the sacred traditions and sacred texts, and social habits. So it's really taking in the totality of Jewish and Islamic civilizations. We're a relatively new degree, unique in Ireland. In terms of this degree in other countries, in the Anglophone world, it's common to do degrees in Jewish and Islamic or Middle Eastern studies in the UK, in the US, and in Canada. And it really does give you a global perspective. And I'm going to show you some of the courses that we do, what you could expect if you did take Jewish and Islamic Civilisations. First of all, the scope of the course. I like to think that chronologically we cover more than any other arts humanities degree in Trinity, and geographically also. In terms of chronologically, we go from the Bronze Age all the way up to the present. So we look at antiquity, we look at the medieval period, we look at the modern period, beginning with the Enlightenment, and all the way up to contemporary issues in Judaism and Islamic culture. The ancient Near East, ancient Egypt, Greek and Roman periods, late antiquity, etc. Geographically, we of course, with Department of Near Middle Eastern Studies, we look at the areas of the Middle East. We also look at Jewish and Muslim experience in Europe, in Asia, in North Africa, and North America. So let's look at the sort of courses and things that you'll be expecting to study if you come in and take our course. Well, the contemporary world, culture and politics. For example, we have a course this year for second and third years on contemporary Islamic movements. So you'll be looking at things like Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Muslim Brotherhood. Here we have Tahrir Square. This is on the Irish Times yesterday. You really want to be able to engage with the modern contemporary world in a critical way. This degree really helps you to prepare to do so. We have courses on Islam and gender. I think all of you recognize Malala here. We also have courses on representation, film representation of the modern period. So Waltz with Bashir, of course, is about the Lebanon war, the Israel war against Lebanon. We also look in terms of the culture and the arts as well. So we look at, how both Jews and Muslims around the world, not just in the Middle East, but also in North America and in Europe, express their cultural identity in literature and film and the arts. Culture and religion. Of course, we look at religion as another aspect of human culture, whether it's Islam today or Islam in its in its origins. Look at Judaism from its emergence in the biblical period all the way up to the present time. We look at disputes and contentious issues. We have a picture of the Dome on the Rock in Jerusalem there. Jerusalem, of course, being sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. So we'll take on those issues, be able to understand why is Jerusalem disputed? What are the various claims about Jerusalem? Here I have the misunderstood Jew. Here we have Jesus as a Jew. These are debates. This is a book that has just come out. These are the debates that are still continuing today. But you'll get a view from the historical perspective, because you'll not only do contemporary debates, you'll also be able to look at the original texts and be able to look at them in a critical, explore them in a critical way, so that you understand how these issues have ended up being contentious. In terms of scope both chronologically and geographically, we look at modern Europe. It's not just about the Middle East. For example, as a lecturer in Jewish studies, I would teach courses about the Jews in modern Europe, starting with the French Revolution, Napoleon and the Jews. We have courses on the Holocaust. We have stuff on Jews in North America. Some of you may recognize this poem written by Emma Lazarus, which is on the Statue of Liberty. Emma Lazarus was Jewish, but she wrote this in response to the huge number of immigrants, Jewish immigrants, leaving Eastern Europe and Russia because of the pogroms at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century. I've no need to explain to you the yellow star. But one of the issues that comes up in class, and I think is very pertinent to today, is, of course, the Jews were, in one sense, the only minority in Europe. So when they became citizens, there was much discussion about what it means to be a citizen of a European country as a member of a minority. How do you express your minority culture and yet also relate and be a full participating member of the societies around you? And that's still happening today. And as migration is the feature of the modern world, we can really see that these debates are so important, and they go back to Jewish emancipation in Europe. Here are three. I always like to take these three German-speaking Jews who really changed the way humanity perceives the world. We have Albert Einstein, Karl Marx, and Sigmund Freud. And they come out of this very particular emancipated European Jewish culture. So if you want to be able to understand why they responded to the world in the way they did, we'll be doing courses on that. In terms of the modern Middle East and North Africa, we look at the great centers of diversity, culture, trade, and politics in the Middle East. Cities like Cairo, Istanbul, Beirut, Alexandria in Egypt, and Tehran. We look at the Arab independence movements and Arab political discourse. You want to understand, the Middle East in the 21st century, you need to understand the nationalist movements, the anti-colonialist movements, and the particular type of political discourse within Arab countries. And looking at modernity, how modernity challenged Islamic thought as well. Now, the medieval world. If you're interested in history, we do modern. In the first year, you can do modern, medieval, and ancient. And then as you go through the years, you can really choose where you want to focus and specialize. The medieval world, of course, everyone always thinks of this clash of civilizations. George Bush even used the term crusade. But this is not what medieval Islam is about. It's not about Christianity against Islam. This is a false modern conception. In our courses, we look at Islamic life in Baghdad, Cairo, Spain, Andalusia, the golden age of Spain, Persia, Tunisia, just some examples. We look at Islamic innovation. Islam was at the forefront of really culture at that stage, developments in philosophy, translation. We all were taught in school, well, I was taught in school that the Renaissance in Europe happened because of the translation of classical texts. But how did they come to Europe? They came through the Islamic world and the translation into Arabic first of all. So we look at the translation movement. Science. Muslim countries, Muslim societies were at the forefront of scientific development at this stage. Medicine and architecture. But the Jews were also an important component of the medieval world. And we find Jews in the Muslim world. We find Jews whose first language is Arabic in Cairo, Baghdad, Spain, and Tunisia. But we also see the beginning of Jewish life in Western Europe under Christian rule. in France, Germany, and England, we see the development of a very distinct culture from the culture of the Jews in the East. And they develop their own language, which will become Yiddish. And when they're expelled from Western Europe and move eastwards into Poland, that's where Yiddish culture really flourishes. And so much of that, of course, is taken to North America. So many words that come out of Yiddish were popularized and came into our language through North American culture. So mishmash, nosh, and of course lots of little rude words as well, which I won't go into. Here's one of the texts of Maimonides, the famous Jewish philosopher. Jewish philosophy, this was the real time of beginning of engagement with the philosophical tradition, between Judaism and the philosophical tradition. And of course, the ancient world. Let's not forget about the ancient world. So much of our course will also focus on the ancient world. And we have this wonderful museum of biblical antiquities. And some of our students are going to talk to you after this. They are doing internships there, so those possibilities will be open to you as well. Jews and Muslims live throughout the world. And so when we examine their civilizations, we do so in context. So in this way, you really get to engage with diverse societies throughout history. From ancient Egypt, for example. We know that Jews were in ancient Egypt from, time immemorial. This is the place where the Hebrew scriptures were first translated into Greek because they needed them. They no longer had Hebrew. They needed to translate them, and we have a little papyrus there. We don't just read the text, we also look at the material culture, inscriptions, papyri. Here are some Jewish women in Alexandria. So we also have depictions of these women also. We look at Jews in the Assyrian, Babylonian, and Persian empires as well. So you'll need to really grasp those cultural contexts as well. Here we have an Assyrian frieze. This here, which is in our museum upstairs, in Trinity's Museum of Biblical Antiquities. So you'll be engaging with these societies through the archaeology, the material culture, and also through their writings. The Jews in the ancient Near East, also in the Greek and Roman worlds. We look at how Jews become Greek speakers, how they end up throughout the whole Roman Empire, and also the tragedy of the destruction of the temple in 70. Here we have the Arch of Titus in Rome, which depicts the plundering of the temple in Jerusalem and the menorah being carried away. And here's a coin minted by Rome to show, it says Judea Capta. So here's Rome, and here's the subjugated Judea. There's the date palm, which of course will represent the Middle East, and here they are. What did that do for the Jews? Well, it took away their temple, and after this, they no longer worshipped in a temple. And really, we have the foundation of Judaism as it is today with rabbinics. The Bible, we can't but mention the Bible. We had a speaker here this week who was visiting, and he said he'd never been to Ireland before, but of course when he did his undergraduate degree in the US in humanities, he read so many, what he said was, of the great writers of the English language who were Irish. And he said that, for him, coming to Ireland was really interesting as a Bible scholar, because here you have a very small island, quite marginal, and yet we've contributed so much to the development of the literary traditions in the English language. And in a way, that's comparable to the Bible, produced by this small group of people in this tiny area of the Levant, and yet for the past thousands of years, it has become so important to so many people in terms of the interpretive traditions, as a sacred text. And we're studying this in context. How did this develop? Where did the Bible come from? How were these texts put together? What was the culture that it came out of? Also, Christianity. We look at the first century and how, in the first century, a small breakaway Jewish movement that starts in Galilee ends up, of course, as the early Christian movement and the religion of the Roman Empire. So that gives you a little overview of the sort of things that you would expect to engage with in the course. I'm going to just reiterate those. First of all, I want to say you don't have to have any prior knowledge. We don't expect you to know anything. These aren't subjects that are taught in schools, so we don't think you need to prepare in any way. You'll get an appreciation of the diversity and cultural richness of Jewish and Islamic civilizations. So looking at the Jewish and Islamic civilizations in places as diverse as New York, Baghdad, Cairo, for example. The critical study through interaction with texts, material culture, the arts, and modern scholarship. So you will also be completely up to date on modern scholarly interpretations of these issues. You can really, through this course, prepare for a career in a variety of fields, and I'll talk about that in a second. You have the opportunity to study Arabic or Hebrew. You can do these internships in the Wine-Green Museum if you're interested in going on to museum studies or working with material culture in any way. This runs throughout the year, and every week you'd be working in the museum. You can also, join our extramural courses. For example, we have one in religion and human rights this year, but human rights is also integrated into some of the courses as well. We have an exchange with the Center for Jewish Studies in Prague, so you may be able to spend a semester in Prague in your third year. I don't really need to sell that to you. I think everyone understands how exciting that would be. And what about career opportunities? Well, the thing about this degree is that it really gives you a global perspective. You don't just have a local perspective when you come out after 4 years of studying this. You can comment critically from issues as, as diverse as Tahrir Square to the Holocaust to, the Jewish Jesus, and all the way through the Crusades, all of those sorts of things. And employers like that, especially if you want to do journalism or media. You really have a bigger picture that others don't. You'll also be trained as well in an arts humanities subject and have all those skills that come with that. International relations, we have a number of students who said to us that having done this course, when they applied, for example, for masters in international relations, that they were given a place before others because they had this kind of background. Museum curatorship is a very good background. You have all the history of the Near East, the ancient Near East at your fingertips. Human rights, law, many people go on to do law, take this on to do law, especially international law. The EU and the UN, the Middle East is at the forefront of every day you open the newspaper, what's there? It's the Middle East. So it's going to be the issue for the next few years. So if you want to get a placement in something like the EU and the UN, this would be a very useful degree to have. Teaching, if you're interested in teaching, it would help you with that. And our graduates have also been very successful in gaining places in MA and PhD programs because, again, they are trained in a specific subject, but again, they have also a broader perspective as well. If you'd like further information, you can talk to me after this presentation, or you can go to our website. We have a departmental email. If there's any particular subject you're interested in, so if you're interested in Jewish studies or biblical studies or Islamic civilizations, here are the lecturers' names. You can actually email them directly and say you're interested in the course. They're on our website, so don't worry about writing that down. And now I'm going to invite some of our students to come up and talk to you because I can tell you how great our course is from my perspective, but of course you're going to be students. So I'm going to ask Talia and Elizabeth, who are in third year, to come up and talk about their experience a little bit.
Hi. I'm Elizabeth. I'm a third-year student, a TSM student of Classical Civilization and Jewish and Islamic Civilization. And to be honest, I'm sorry to admit this now, but I didn't have a clue what I was getting myself in for when I first put it down on the CIO form. But I'm really, really glad I did for the exact reasons that Dr. Rogers has pointed out. The huge scope of knowledge that you come out with is really, I can't emphasize enough that how much it would help you in understanding contemporary culture, in understanding contemporary issues, in understanding anything, and in being really good at table quizzes. But I also just want to say that it might seem kind of scary, even just the chronology that we cover, and I just want to say that the department is organised really, really well, and the classes are structured really, really well in a really doable and really helpful way. And the department is quite small, and I know I found that, and my fellow students have found that it's amazing to have such an interactive department where you can talk to your lecturers after class, where you can put your hand up in the middle of a class and ask a question, where there is group discussion, and there's a give and take with that, and I think that's amazing. And it's hard to get in university, and especially coming from a classroom or a small sort of thing, it can be a bit daunting, but it's really nice to have that knowledge that you can ask questions, that you can knock on their door even outside office hours and like talk about an assignment or talk about feedback or something. And I think in that sense that it's a really good department, and it's a lovely course to be involved in. There's around 6 hours, there's 6 hours of teaching a week, and then with the other TSM there'd be 12, so there's enough time to get a really good structure and enough time to brush up on reading and everything like that. The subjects that I took in second year and in third year, you get to choose, so I think that also shows that there's such a big scope in the subject, because my interests would be mainly in like Jewish civilization, and particularly I've developed an interest in Jewish economy for some reason. But some of my friends are inherently interested in human rights, but there's still that, availability to do both. And also I took Arabic, but Talia will talk a bit about that. She's the star of our Arabic class. And that's like, whenever would I else get the choice to do 2 hours of Arabic a week? And it's been a fantastic opportunity to learn a language that is so different, but is becoming such a bigger part of our extra world. And I definitely think that it's definitely a bonus to have that on my CV and for later life. So I'll let Talia talk for a few minutes. If anyone has any questions about the student perspective of it or anything like that, do feel free to ask us, any of us in the exam hall, or in the dining hall. Sorry, today.
I was the same as Liz, actually. I kind of fell into this course by accident. I transferred in. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted as my second subject for doing TSM. But now I'm actually going to choose it for final year, because I ended up completely loving it. My other course is ancient history and archaeology, so this course really complements it. But then I ended up loving that even more than the archaeology side of it. Like Zulika said, you can get an internship in the museum, the Winegreen Museum. It's up on the 5th floor. I don't know if it's not open. But yeah, so you get to handle the artifacts, you take photographs. What else? I don't know, it's great anyway. Yeah, I do Arabic as well, which was by accident as well. I didn't know if I was going to be any good at it, and then I spent the summer after picking it going, oh God, why did I do that? But no, it's really great, and it's going to be really useful. It's great on your CV. You can get jobs even just having Arabic, like no matter what your degree is. It can get you into so many places. So I think that's, if you have any questions anyway, just ask me and Liz or Zulika.
So if you want, you can come down and ask us questions. My colleague in Islamic Civilisations, Ruja Fazaeli, is here. So please feel free to, mingle with us. We've tried to keep the presentations short so that you can come and ask us questions or ask the students questions. So thank you very much for your attention, and hope to see you in September. Thank you.